Well, I think that was a great lesson in the importance of grassroots advocacy, and that is something that our next speaker cares deeply about. From the Netherlands, we're moving to Australia, which is where people have been fighting for CGM access as well for a long time. They now have huge success stories to celebrate, and another success story is something that Renza will now tell us all about. Renza, welcome to the stage. Renza, we cannot hear you just yet. You have to unmute yourself.
Ah, look at that. You'd think I'd know how to use technology, alas.
Happens to one person every time. At least it was me.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. You're here to tell us about a little success story that happened in the past couple of weeks, actually, in Australia.
I am. Before I do that, I was really interested to hear Orietta's speech talk, because we do now have access for all people with type 1 diabetes. We don't have access for all, but access for all people with type 1 diabetes for CGM. And I really appreciate the comments around not burning out, because that was 15 years almost of really strong advocacy. And I was working in a diabetes organisation in that time, and I can tell you that there was a lot of dedication and work in the organisations as well as from the community. And I guess that's a bit about what I want to talk about today, which is our massive, well, I wouldn't call it a massive win, actually. We'll call it a reprieve that we had, because we had a bit of a shock while we were at ATTD, actually, and that was that we learnt that Fiasp was being taken off our PBS. So our PBS in Australia is the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme, and medications that are on there are subsidised. So a full price prescription on the PBS is $30 now. If you have a healthcare card, it is significantly less than that. And we were told that we had a month, basically just over a month really, before it was being removed from the PBS, and people would need to pay the full price. And this hit the community before it hit anybody else, and it was grassroots advocates that absolutely got the ball rolling with this. And I think David Barron, one of our dedoc voices, known as the Bionic Wookie, wrote a really great blog to kick things off. And at the same time, Belinda Moore, who I know is also on, who is also watching, worked with advocates in the community to start a petition. And yay to the dedoc voices who picked this up and shared it and got it out there. But we found out just a couple of weeks ago that we have a reprieve, and that reprieve is that we have an extra 6 months where it will be on the PBS, and hopefully in that time the major players, the department and Novo Nordisk can play nice and find a way to come to some agreement so that it is still available at a reasonable cost for people with diabetes.
Fingers crossed. So you have 6 months of time that you can use to fight for this exact thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it was a community effort. Sorry,
how do you see this happening? What are your plans? Who's fighting for this? How are you coordinating?
Yeah, so I think, I'm here really just to talk about the grassroots efforts. It was the community that got this started and then was really vocal and did not stop. There were news stories, there were meetings with MPs, there were letters to papers, there were all of those sorts of things that I think often people think, my voice doesn't matter, I'm just one person, but it becomes a really loud choir. And that's the thing that's incredible. This community moves mountains. It absolutely does when we all come together. And this was a really great example of that. And I will say, we need the grassroots advocates, but we do need our organisations also fighting for us, which is exactly what they were doing. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. And there was a lot of that happening. Now, my role now is not really working in that space anymore. So I didn't have a front row seat to it in this example, but I have had in the past. And I will say that there is a lot that happens, and I can only obviously speak from the Australian perspective, but there is a lot that goes on that you can't really shout about. Those meetings that happen, they're really unsexy, I've got to say, but they have to happen. And those meetings also happened alongside what the community was doing. But gosh, the community was loud, and that is always a good thing. And the way that that Aussies all came together to fight for this was really remarkable.
Yeah, incredible. And you had some international support as well, from what I hear, right?
Oh yeah, we did. And you know, I sort of spent a bit of time looking through who was signing petitions, and there were a lot of very familiar names. Part of our dedoc community got on board, and how grateful we are, because you know, this community is stronger when everybody supports each other. And it was just such a generous way that people just jumped on board. But you know, I say this all the time, and I believe it: community is everything. Community is everything. And this community never, ever surprises me, because people will go into bat for each other and support each other in ways that are truly remarkable, and they do it generously and quickly and selflessly. And gosh, you know, how absolutely lucky we are that we had that community doing that. But you know, we've got David on this call watching, we've got Belinda, and we've got Leon, and they were certainly leading a charge there. But the way the community stepped up was just incredible.
Yeah, and a great example, and hopefully great inspiration for many more of these campaigns to come. And yeah, we can't wait to hear more about this fight that you now have 6 months for. Fingers crossed for that. Renza, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say goodbye for now, because we'll see you.
I'll be back
later at the end of the live stream once more.
Lovely.
Thank you.
All right. See you later. Bye.